Welcome back to the Speaking and Communicating podcast. I am your host, Roberta Ndlela. If you are looking to improve your communication skills, both professionally and personally, this is the podcast you should be tuning into. Communication and soft skills are crucial for your career growth and leadership development. And by the end of this episode, please log on to Apple and Spotify and leave us a rating and a review. Now let's get communicating with Michael W. Allison, who is a military veteran, is an author, podcast host, and entrepreneur. Michael has had such a transformational journey, which we are all looking forward to hearing about on this show. So, before I go any further, please help me welcome him to the show. Hi, Michael.
Hey, Roberta. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Thank you for being here. Welcome. Where in the US are you?
I'm in Florida.
Oh, okay. You're down below me. I'm in Georgia.
Okay.
Yes. Welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, no doubt. Obviously, Michael Allison. I'm the founder and CEO for the Adversity Academy, and kid that was born in Jamaica, raised in South Florida. Spent some time in the military. Then from there, I got into corporate. So worked on the railroad for a little bit. Worked for the government for several years, and then worked for Florida Atlantic University to work with veteran students. And then eventually, I said I wanted to have a change of career. So I got into entrepreneurship. So I bought a franchise, ran a franchise construction company for a couple of years, and then after selling that company, I decided to start the Adversity Academy, where I could take all of my life experiences that I faced to go back out and just help some people get on that path of transformation, to help them develop some clarity and to help them just discover that blueprint and that purpose and mission that they're trying to create for themselves.
Mm. When you talk about adversity and founding the Adversity Academy, which is something that I think all of us go through, obviously different levels, but are there adversities or experiences that you are free, you feel okay to share with us today?
Sure, no problem. Adversity, I would say that I'm no stranger to it, as things were going happening in my life, and I was just going through it, and I was one to bottle those emotions and those thoughts and those feelings in, to not actually talk about them. But it was not until as of late or recently that I felt much more comfortable, vulnerable to be transparent about my story. And my story was one that started in Jamaica. We went through a flood, we went through a hurricane, left us homeless. And I saw how my mom and dad handled those situations, and they didn't complain about it. They just became adaptable and flexible in regards to figuring things out. And I say that as in, like, they've built a house, they've built and created things for their kids, and to see a flood and hurricane take it in a matter of a couple hours, and now you have to
Mhm.
rebuild and start over. They did that, and without a wink, they put together whatever they had to do, and they figured it out. So I came to the United States in 1988, and the first night that I came to the America, I was molested by a family member. And then, furthermore, I joined the Boy Scouts a couple of years later, and took a trip to Washington D.C. And all of the boys and I stayed in a hotel with our scoutmasters, and the same thing took place inside of a hotel room in Washington D.C.
Mm.
A couple of years later, I was playing high school football, had hopes and dreams of going to the NFL, had an offer from the University of Wisconsin, and I tore my ACL and MCL in back-to-back years. And coincidentally, I lost those opportunities to go to the University of Wisconsin due to some of the financial restraints that I would say that was within my family. We I decided that I said the next option, instead of putting a burden or a restraint on my family, was for me to figure out a way to do something else with my life or with my career at that time. And the
Mm.
option for me was United States Marine Corps. So I joined the military, and I served for 8 years. What I would say for those 8 years, I was in during the time of 9/11, and after 9/11 hit, I knew that I may go to war. And
Wow.
going to war, I experienced the worst of the worst, seen the worst of the worst, and I quickly learned that complacency will kill you, and you have to be vigilant and have to always be prepared. The first night that I was there, we had incoming. The first mission that I went on, I was shot at and seen
Mm.
bullets. bullets landing behind me and seeing you could see the dust and the sparks from bullets landing. And then the
Okay.
last mission that I was on, I was delivering supplies to my unit. And as soon as I finished delivering the supplies, a car bomb, a VBID car bomb comes up. It hits the Humvee next to me, and my tank gets hit, gets tilted. I get jolted as half of my body is outside of my tank. Shrapnel hit me above the eye, injured my shoulder, knocked me out inside of the tank. And obviously, I came back too from there. But the worst part of it all, from that car bomb explosion, my gunny was covered up in smoke. The driver for that Humvee was my best friend, and he died. Had to put him in
Hmm.
a body bag. Our doctor lost half of his leg, and the driver lost half of his face. And obviously, that stuck with me and left a traumatic memory ingrained in my mind, as seeing war truly, truly in itself right then and there is something that you could never unsee, unerase, forget about. I got out of the military after that. After serving and seeing all of those things and experiencing those things, war affects people in different ways, and it affected me tremendously horrible. And I got out, and when I got out, I worked on the railroad, and and I thought I was running away from doing that type of job or that experience. But 5 years later on the railroad, I see two suicides, and it immediately brought me back to that day.
Mm.
So I eventually got out of the railroad because of seeing that type of experience. But sadly for me, I didn't really handle that situation well. I was going through a divorce at the time, and at the same time I was going through that divorce and seeing those suicides, I got a DUI that night, dealing with those types of things that I was facing. Nonetheless, I faced what I was given to me. So I was put on probation, license taken away, and so many other things. And I had to figure out a way to get myself back up on my feet, and I did that. I took what the consequences that took place, and I went back to school, got my bachelor's degree, got my master's degree, and then I took a job in Washington D.C., become a government contractor, and did that for several years. But you know, I kind of was realizing the pattern with my life. Like things would go really, really well for me professionally, but my personal life was not doing the greatest.
Hmm.
So, for that being said, I went through another divorce, and at this particular brink in my life, I was probably at the lowest point in my life, and this is when I tried to commit suicide and take my life. And but thank God that didn't happen. That did not take place. But it was in that
Hmm.
defining moment where I decided to change my life, and ever since then, my life has been totally transformed. And it was not until I started working on my personal development and just working on myself first and fixing all of the things that was broken within me. But it was incumbent on me just to start taking responsibility, start having a ton of responsibility, create that identity shift that I wanted to make for myself.
I'm sitting here as an interviewer. I'm trying to keep up with all the basically the adversities that you've gone through. One thing I've noticed is once in a while, not only do you chuckle, but you are not as emotional or like toned down by the experience as some of us would be if we recall it. If we recall what happened, even our face changes and we become emotional, sometimes we cry. Why is that not your reaction, so to speak?
So it's funny you asked me that. Several years ago, that was my reaction. And the thing for me was I I learned at a very young age how to compartmentalize and bottle things in. And I will say when I served in the military, it doubled down on those types of emotion and feelings. As if anything ever happens to you, you have to be able to compartmentalize it, put it in the box, and be able to react and move very, very fast. So you don't give yourself a time to think about those things. And I did that for a very long time. And then it was when I got to my breaking point, as I mentioned earlier, I I didn't really know how to deal with that and challenge that. So I started writing. And I found that writing and sharing my story just through journaling was a bit of a relief for myself. And then I started writing, and the person that helped me write my book, which was Chris Belber, a good friend of mine with Netflix, he said, "Hey, man, I've read your story, and I see that you have quite a few traumatic things in your life.
Mm.
And I think you should expound on this, as I think it could be therapy for yourself. And it took me, after he even told me that, it took me a couple years to even write it, because as I was writing things and replaying things over and over in my mind, it was harder to just deal with it and accept some of the things that was taking place. But once I got through that, and I was not on until I got through the right counseling, surrounding myself with the right people, and understanding what was all of the seriousness that was tied to either your mental health issues, PTSD, traumatic brain injuries, and all of these different topics or labels that come with some of the things that you're experiencing, to
Mm.
actually face it and deal with it. And once I was able to face it and deal with it, understand things that was happening to me, I got past the grief, the unforgiveness, the anxiety, the depression, and all of those things that I had to face and deal with and learn how to handle. And after that, I was able to start comprehending and start putting things together when you apply all of like the psychological, the cognitive things that are going on within you. And from there on, I was much more at peace when I was able to become much more vulnerable and transparent to share my story. When I started doing that, I found that there was many other people that was either dealing with some of the same things or bottling some of those things. And that's why I go by I use the term break the bottle, because I bottle those things in. But once I was able to break the
Mhm.
bottle and shatter all of those things that was holding me back, I found that it was much more of a release for me. And it was helpful for me to even get out of that mindset, because I'm not one to have like pity parties or like feel sorry for me or anything like that.
Right, right. And we're not, by the way, encouraging pity parties and for people to just sit in, sorrow and feel sorry for themselves. But it's just that I just made that observation that you actually can now talk about it. As you said, we will talk about the transformation you've gone through. And then after those experiences, you then what decision did you make that led you to now having the Adversity Academy?
Yeah, so the decision that led me to this was seeing the difference that I was making from sharing my story. I initially started off with just writing my book, because that was the outlet for me.
Mhm.
And when I had a book release, I got so many emails, letters, that whenever I was being called to go speak at different events, how many moms or many guys that pulled me to the side and was like, "Keep going, you
Mm.
this happened to me. I know if this happening to somebody else." And to hear that you're up here and brave enough to talk about this right here is truly very, very helpful. And initially it was just for me to work on me, and that was benefiting me. But then from me adopting that and acknowledging this is like my assigned mission, my assigned purpose of me giving back and helping people,
Mhm.
it took me on the path of creating the Adversity Academy. And when I look back at my life of where it was going, I started understanding the direction of where I was going. I understood the destination of where I was going, and it was on the road to destruction of all of these things if they kept happening in these patterns and these cycles that I kept putting myself in. And once I started figuring out those things to get aligned, then I said I would like to start helping people get aligned, get some clarity, get some blueprint in their lives, and understand some of the same things that I've been through, because I've lived it, I've been through it, and I figured out how to get out of it. So I felt like my experience was to be totally, truly authentic to myself, but help guide people that are maybe stuck or have been through some things in their lives that I could help them get through.
Mm. Here's my question. When you go through all these experiences, and you mentioned identity shift earlier, how do you feel about yourself? How do you see yourself?
I see myself as someone that is now a change agent. You know, I felt that I'm someone that could help lead people, help guide people that may be broken. Because before, I struggle with my identity. I struggle with my confidence. I struggle with all of the things that I wanted to get accomplished in life. But once I went on that road to discovery and understand all of the things that make me up, understand what are my values, understand what are my standards, understand the things that makes my character who I am, and I could believe that, I could stand on that, and there's nothing that could shatter that. That's what helped me gain and define the identity of the person that I wanted to be and the person that I am now today.
Mm. When you go through adversity, do you feel unseen? Because now that you share your story, people who go through the similar experiences are feeling seen by you. Did you feel unseen? Did you feel like no one understands what I'm going through internally when you were speaking to yourself, internal dialogue, as we say?
You know what? It is kind of like that, because what we kind of think about with people that have been through trauma and are going through things, we feel like we're the only one that is in that space. When
Mm,
truly, I obviously discovered this. Like, there's so many people that's suffering. There's so many people that are hurting, and that's why people lead to the roads of like depression and anxiety and suicide and all of these things, because they think that there's no help. They think that they're there by themselves. But truly, if you actually seek the road of trying to like better yourself, there's actually people out there willing to help you, just like me.
right, right. And now that you have this academy, when people come to you, obviously they said, I've been through this, keep doing what you're doing. But what are some of the other benefits of sharing their story when they come to your academy?
Right. When you come to the academy, we're gonna go through the 3 Ds. We're gonna identify some of the decisions you're making, some of the direction your life is going in, destination, and then we're gonna get you realigned, and we're gonna start aligning some of the things through that self-discovery phase of where you're trying to go, where you're trying to be. So we give you some clarity. We're gonna give you a clear blueprint of some of the things that you need to be doing in your life. But ultimately, you're gonna have a community, people that's gonna be around you, that's gonna support you, that's gonna love you, gonna be your biggest cheerleader, and that's gonna
Mhm.
also gonna be there to understand like what you've been through is some stuff that we've either been through, but we have that compassion, we have that empathy in regards to knowing that this is a safe space.
Right, and the accountability factor as well. Because I know sometimes, as we were mentioning a pity party earlier, is that sometimes we think, oh, but I can't do this because I've been through this, or I'm still emotional about this experience. Can you just hold on? You know what I mean? Sometimes we use that as a crutch in order to not take the next step.
Yeah, we can't use those types of mindsets in regards to getting out of where you're at. I think adversity is one of the greatest lessons to show you truly who you are and build that character. And I think whenever you hear that type of rhetoric or conversation, it's truly operating out of fear.
Mm.
And whenever you're operating out of fear, you will never get to your destination of where you're trying to be.
Yeah, I wish while going through an adverse experience, that's how we would see it and think, you know what? Yeah, this is helping me because it doesn't feel that way at the time, does it?
It doesn't. It doesn't. And that's the thing, and that's the beauty of a community, because even if, when people are within a community, even if they do not even say anything, what I've found is to whenever you get on these calls or you get in these groups, and for them to even hear your story or hear what somebody else is doing, it does sometimes encourage them. It does motivate them in regards to seeing what somebody else is doing.
Mm. Okay, so part of your transformation, you wrote the book. What is the title of the book?
Yes, my book is called Overcoming Adversity, Getting Your Life Back on Track.
Where you tell the story that you part of what you shared with us today. And then what else? You were talking about self-development and all the thing. What did you do exactly? And how did you come to the decision to say something has to be different in my life now?
Sure. So, it was once I got off that bridge, and I thought that I was the worst husband in the world. I thought that I was the worst dad in the world. I was on 13 different medications and not really caring anything about life or anything to care about. And when I sat back and I said, you need to start taking responsibility and accountability and fix your life and make things right. From there, I started identifying, what am I doing? What led me to where I'm at now today? And once I started identifying what is it that I was doing in my life that got me to this point in my life, then I started saying, all right, these things need to be removed, these things need to be fixed. And once I started extracting all of these things, where there was the places I was going, the people that I was around, the things that I was watching, the things that I was listening to, all of these different things, all of these different factors that was affecting all of the things that meant the most to me. And for
Mm-hmm.
me, I had to start identifying what is it that where is it that I want to be in life, and who is it that I want around me. It was to get my family back. It was to surround myself with the right mentors, the right coaches, the right accountability partners, be in the right environment, and stop doing some of the things that I was doing. I started doing that. So then I went to get counseling, and I found the right counselor that was going to help me gain some of these things that I needed to do. Then
Mm-hmm.
I went to Rush University, and PTSD is a serious thing, and it was something that I bottled in and did not talk about for close to 10 years when I got out of the military. So, me seeing my best friend die, me getting shot at, and those types of things, I've never disclosed those things, talked about those things for close to 10 years, and they just stayed in here.
Mm.
Then so after working through counselors, and then for me, I had to went to Rush University, learn all about PTSD, all about neuro-linguistic programming. And then I went to Emory Hospital there in Atlanta, Georgia, and I went through their veterans program that work with veterans on the PTSD symptoms and things like that. I furthermore went to join a men's group, and I started working with these men that were struggling with some of the same things that I was dealing with, but now it's more so on a family level, much more maturity type of level, and started facing dealing with some of these things that men struggle with, and a good bit of that with was men of color that struggle with too as well. So I talked about some of those things and worked through some of those things and figured some things out about myself. And once I got on that path, then I got into identifying someone that could help me on a personal development level. I started finding someone that I could trust and talk with to that could hold me accountable in regards to like an accountability partner, and I did that. And once I started making some changes around some of these things that I knew that I needed to fix, my life changed. My life
Mm.
changed. And what these people did was they asked me all of the right questions. They challenged me, they pushed me, they encouraged me, they motivated me. And once it allowed me to start thinking and cognitively start thinking and processing things, they helped me become much more resilient. It helped me to change the way I was processing things and thinking about myself to for me to change my life.
It's interesting when you talk about the things and the people you surround yourself with. Before the age of social media and the internet, we used to just think physically people, the best five people you surround yourself with, check your friends. But now it also includes what you watch on the internet, YouTube, what you focus on in the media and social media and those kinds of things. Would you say that you also had to reevaluate your internet activity as part of what you surround yourself with?
Without a doubt, Roberta, I was one that was watching things on the internet that I probably should not be watching. I was one that was on social media looking at things that I should not be looking at. So I did a complete audit and an overhaul of what people I was following,
Mm.
things that I was watching, and removing all of those things. I had to extract all of those things and put myself in much more engaging, meaningful activities. And even the music that I was listening to, I had to change those things too as well. And that was so
Right.
much of an influence for me.
Mm. Yesterday, I watched. There's a clip, a video clip of, I forgot her name, but she is a teacher who goes around schools talking to teenagers in schools about the music they listen to. And one thing I remember, she said to them, You listen to Cardi B, somebody read, I don't know what that is, and something like that. But I think they are rappers or singers. And then she asked them, Who do you respect? And they said their mom. And then she asked, If you respect your mom, but you listen to people who are nothing or act nothing like your mom, how do you then perceive girls who are your peers? Because this music you listen to, the thing they say about women, what they call women, That's nothing like your mom, and that your mom is the one that you respect. Do you see the contradiction?
Yeah, I do see the contradiction, and sadly, in this day and age, I think the social media is a contributor to that right there that what you just spoke about. I think it's imperative that we as parents actually play a role in that part too as well, though, because um, you know, kids are around their friends, they're around their peers, and these are the people that are influencing them. And I think you as a parent may have to start intervening in regards to like what your kids are listening to, what they're paying attention to. And the thing with that is, when I was growing up, I didn't see a cell phone until I was about 18, 19.
They were invented when I came out of high school. You know, yeah, I'm that old as well. It's cell phone. I finished high school in 92. That's the first time I saw a cell phone.
Now, I mean, kids are having cell phones at 3, 4, 5 years old, and it's just taken over. So us as parents has to try to govern some of these things accordingly as much as we can or as much as possible. And trying to create a foundation for your kids is probably the biggest key.
Mm. Because we can never underestimate the influence that these things have on our thoughts, our actions, how we view life, how we view other people as well.
Without a doubt at all.
Mm. Now, please tell us about your podcast, Michael.
Yeah, so the podcast Overcoming Adversity, it's an extension of the academy itself. But what I love about it is, for me, I believe that personal development and business development, as that's the space that I'm in, do align. So what I do, I interview people that come on the podcast. They may have faced some personal adversities in their lives, and they talk about what they've been through, but they also share some of the key steps and some of the key elements that through that process as we unpack their story to share how they overcame those adversities, and they leave our listeners to some great words of wisdom, some lessons, some tidbits, and things like that that could help our listeners. And for the business owners, we have business owners that come through, but they talk about adversities, a challenge that they face in their business. Could be communications, could be marketing, could be HR, could be leadership, those types of topics. And then we kind of navigate through that type of conversation and helping them see some different areas, some different problem solving techniques within that. And then from them to go ahead and share some lessons, some stories from their experiences, from their stories they could leave with our audience too as well.
Mm. And absolutely wonderful work that you do. Because the thing about transformation is that it's an ongoing process. It never ends. You don't say, "Oh, I've arrived. I'm healed. I'm good now." You know what I
No.
mean? I'm fixed. Yes, the Overcoming Adversity podcast. Michael, first of all, I want to honor you and thank you for sharing your very powerful story. As I said earlier, you make others who sometimes haven't gathered up the courage to share their story, their traumatic experiences on a public platform. You make those people feel seen. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
My pleasure. And before you go, where can we find you online?
So online, you can find me www.michaelwallison.com. If you just want to find me directly. For the Adversity Academy, it's www.theadversityacademy. And if you want, I could also offer your guests a free download of resources as well too. So
Yes, please. Please tell us where to find it.
they could go to www.breakthebottle.org resource list.
Okay. So Michael W. Allison, and the Allison is two L's, right?
That's correct.
michaelwallison.com to directly connect with you. The adversityacademy.com. No, the overcoming adversity?
So it's theadversityacademy.com, where you can
Yeah,
find out more about all of our programs, our workshops, all of the
mhm,
different mentorships services that we do have to offer.
right. Sorry, the adversityacademy.com. And then breakthebottle.org, yeah, the free resources. Thank you very much. We love free gifts on this show. Free resources from Michael W. Allison. This has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much, Michael, for being on our show today.
Absolutely. It's been a blessing.
Excellent stuff. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a rating and a review on Apple and Spotify, and stay tuned for more episodes to come.